If you're a HubSpot user or you happen to have used HubSpot sequences in the past, there's a new tool called HubSpot Dynamic Sequences that was released as I'm recording this video. It's about the end of 2024, and it's new, but it's actually one of the most powerful new features inside of the Sales Pro area. You have access to it whether you have Pro or Enterprise, but what it does is it gives you a chance to build automated actions on one side of the if-then branch, and then if there is intent or engagement signals in this case, it fires them over into the one-to-one rep-led outreach. So now you have automated actions. Once someone sort of bubbles to the top and has engagement, it moves over to rep-led actions. So I'm going to show you how to set that up and what that looks like and where to find it here in this video. To create a sequence, you're going to go here into the sequences area in your HubSpot portal, and it's going to be accessible over on the left-hand side. We've got sequences, and then we've got create your sequence over here in the top right. Now, here's a little trick. If you pull this down and you select dynamic sequence, that's how we get to the dynamic sequences. If you click start from scratch, that'll actually start you from scratch, just like we used to do in our old portal when we're just doing the sequences. Okay, real quick, there is a little bit of a mystery behind this. If you just click on create sequence, you'll get the option to do it from scratch, get the pre-made ones as well as dynamic. So I'm going to click on that so you see this here. Okay, here we go. So we've got dynamic sequences, which is what we're going to dig into here. We've got the starting from scratch, which is something we're all familiar with based on previous experience. Lots of videos on our YouTube channel about that. And then here's all these pre-made sequences that, again, existed previously and help you kind of get a fresh start if you have a blank cursor and you're not sure like kind of what to do is take a next step. So as we can see here with dynamic sequences, there's three big benefits here: improving efficiency. You're never going to miss engaged leads because you have signal-based follow-ups. And then the goal is to book more meetings. So it's up to you to figure out how to use these to make that possible, but we're going to go ahead and click into this so you can see how this plays out when you actually create this new type of sequence. So we're going to call this our test dynamic sequence. And then what you'll see here is we actually have an initial step we need to configure. So let's do this. Let's select an initial step and let's pretend we're going to use this outreach. I know we have an outreach template in here and we're going to do blueprint outreach email. Okay. So this is actually going to be our outreach email. And then we would actually need to fill this in. This isn't a great email, but let's just use this for example purposes. And here is what we have. This signals 2 opens or 1 click. Now, if you look at this little gear icon, that's going to take you to the same place that the settings here will. And here in the settings, you can see that these are the engagement signals. Now, at the recording of this video, if you hover over this, you'll notice the engagement signals are set by HubSpot and cannot be edited for now. I'm hoping this for now eventually becomes not such a big deal and we can actually edit them, but at the recording of this, this is what it said. So if someone opens the email twice, or they click into the sequence, then it's going to move them over to rep-led outreach. So let's jump back to the steps and actually see what this looks like. So this means if we send this one automated email and they happen to click through one time or they open twice, they'll manually, well, I guess not manually, you'll get a task as a sales rep to send whatever we assign over here. So before we do that, we're going to need a couple more steps. So let's go ahead and add 2 more automated emails into here. We're going to select new threads. Let's select our, let's pretend that these are actually a follow-up email. So we've got number 1, there's a business delay here, and then, or a business day delay. Let's select another one and we're going to go, let's just do another outreach. Okay, so we've got 3 emails. Again, content here, not important. We're just demonstrating this. And then let's assume that any of these emails, so if they get 2 opens or 1 click, we're going to have the sales rep call. Okay, so we're going to pause the sequence until the task is completed. So what this means is once this sequence hits the threshold, then there's going to be a task that will automatically be added into this sequence, and the rest of the emails that are firing will stop, or in this case, pause until this call gets completed and marked as done. Okay. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and assign this, and all of these are actually still assigned to the person who's enrolling the contact in the sequence. So if this is me, then I will enroll someone in the sequence. And then if someone responds to my automated email, then it will come back to me to get automated a task to call, and then I'll have to do that. If you're in a marketing role or a leadership role and you're making this for your team will need to individually enroll people so that it individually assigns calls to them here. Okay. All right. So it's going to pause the sequence. And then let's say we're going to go ahead and complete another, and we're going to get a general task. And then we're going to add this here. We're going to add another one here. We're going to send an email, so on and so forth. So at this point, we're now out of the automated steps, and we're now over here into the rep-led outreach. Now, you'll notice that we've just got tasks and follow-ups here. What if I still want to send them an email? Well, you still can, but since we're now at a one-to-one setting, we're no longer looking at this like pure automated outreach. We probably want to use the manual email function. So let's actually insert a manual email after that first call. And just because you're using manual email doesn't mean you can't recommend a template for someone to use to make it easy for them to go in and actually send this. So if I were to say this, let's say that I'm going to recommend, or a template for myself that I'm going to use might be just a follow-up. So I'm going to use this meeting follow-up here, and I'm going to use that here. So when this task gets assigned to me, this is actually the email that would come up, and I would go ahead and send that. So this is how the two work. Again, these signals are what's going to fire someone over here. If there's not two opens or a click, we're actually going to they'll continue to get these. And then if they actually get all three of these and don't engage, none of this over here will actually get scheduled in the sequence. Okay, so that's how it's set up. Now, if you go to settings, you'll see that we have the same settings that we see on our regular sequences in terms of when you can execute those follow-up emails. Do you want to get email reminders of the tasks that are assigned to you? Depending on how many people you're enrolling in sequences, in this case, dynamic sequences, you may or may not want to turn this on. And then from an automation standpoint, I'm demonstrating this right now on Sales Pro, but if you wanted to create a automation to remove someone from a sequence using a workflow, and you have Sales Enterprise, that's possible too. Dynamic sequences in terms of unenrollment don't change anything from the whole sequence. So back to the steps here, just real quick, briefly clarifying this. This pulls them out of the automated emails and over here into rep-led outreach. And then if in fact we want them to be moved out of the entire sequence, so for example, let's say that, they call and then they email back and say, buzz off, I don't ever want to talk to you again. Okay, then you probably don't want the rest of these tasks assigned to the rep because they don't need to make them. So in that case, you probably want to set up an unenrollment, whether that's, they reply to the email, or in a certain case, there's a flag for you essentially to know that you got to pull them out of the sequence. So that is how this works. This is currently in beta as we're demonstrating in this video, but we're going to click on save. We're going to call this a test dynamic sequence, and then we're actually going to demonstrate enrolling someone. So I did a test enrollment, and I wanted to show you what the analytics look like on the backside of these dynamic sequences. So first of all, they do look a little bit different than our other sequences. So this is what we see for insights. I'm going to bounce over to a different sequence just to show you the difference in actually what it looks like on the dashboard. So this is what the performance looks like of current sequences in the old tool, not the dynamic sequences. So you can see that you've got enrollments, meeting rates, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go back to what I just showed you here in this test dynamic sequence. We're going to go to performance here. Okay, so you can see we have one person enrolled and we've reached one lead. Now you'll notice that we've got these broken out from lead quality and engagement. So I'm going to go ahead and I have a test email that I sent to myself. Okay, so I just clicked into that email. So we should be seeing something pop up on our screen here. I'm going to go ahead and hard refresh. Okay, so you'll notice here, now that I refreshed, we've got one opened and one clicked. So now you'll see that as we're looking at the engagement, we've got one contact, leads reached, and then automated outreach, we've got one. And then we should be having this happen here. So let's actually wait to see what happens. So we're going to go to the steps. Actually, not the steps. We're going to go to enrollments, and we've gotten one open and one click. So this is now paused because it is paused by a task. So if I open this and I open the record, I will see that I have an upcoming task. It's part of a dynamic sequence here. Okay, so this is interesting. So now if I'm looking from a reporting standpoint, I can actually see the performance of everyone here, but I cannot see on this dashboard that it is paused by a task. So probably something to keep in mind as you work through. I've got one task created, but the more data you get in here, the more we're going to learn about this. So this is really interesting. I'm going to go ahead and keep this running, and maybe in a future video, I'll do this to a larger group, and I'm actually going to share that information here on our YouTube channel. But for now, you can see how this would play out. And again, if I go to my tasks, let's actually see what this shakes out in terms of my tasks. CRM, let's go to tasks. So if I pull open the task for this particular one, you'll notice that the task here is from the sequence test dynamic sequence. So you can start to see kind of how these things work together. But I think would be interesting when you're making the dynamic sequence, if you actually put the word dynamic in the sequence name, probably a smart thing anyway, but that way your reps would know, hey, you've got a task to call so-and-so because they've actually engaged with one of the emails in your sequence. Because if I'm in a sales capacity, I only want to spend my time calling people that want to talk to me. And in this case, this most likely is true. So real quick caveat, I did test this opening on my mobile device and then opening on my desktop. And I did not see, I actually have an Apple or like an iPhone. And so I don't know if maybe the link tracking within iOS wasn't triggering the engagement, but I did click over on desktop and it did happen. So just kind of a caveat as this gets rolled out and what the beta looks like. But I would encourage you to take a look and see maybe how you can experiment with this. And again, I will report back on what I'm finding. That's it for this episode of HubSpot Hacks, more tips, tricks, and how-tos. And if you need some help with sequences, maybe it's training or setting them up for your company or simply making better use of them, feel free to hire us. We can actually help you with that at our firm as well. Until next time, thanks for watching.